Okay, welcome everyone. I'm Councilor Bill Songs. I'd like to welcome everyone to this meeting of the second budget workshop of the Ledger Town Council Finance Committee. With me are Councilors Tim Ryan and Andra Ingalls, both members of the committee. Also, we have Chairman Kevin Dombrowski of the Town Council, Councilor Mary McGrattan. Online, we have Councilor Naomi Rodriguez, all of the Town Council. Also present, we have the mayor, former finance director Marcia Hancock, current finance director Ian Stammel, administrative assistant Roxanne Marr, current finance director Matt Bonin, fire marshal Jim Mann, and I think that's everyone.
You gave me a promotion.
Online,
Yeah, I
we
was
have-
about to say, I thought I heard that
You
twice.
promoted me.
Yeah, sorry. And
There's no
online,
pay
we
increase
also
with
have Mary Ellen DeBlecki, who is a resident. So I'm going to ask, based on some questions I asked at the last meeting, if we could limit sidebar conversations to a dull roar, like actually no sidebar conversations, because we have in the center of this table the Owl Pro, which picks up every conversation, makes it very hard for people online to follow what's going on. Also, I'm going to ask, you're fine, Steve, but in the future, I'm going to ask the people who are not presenting to not be at the table as we have in the room now. But Steve is following Fire Marshal Jim Mann. So that way we'll have the fewest people close to the mic and we'll have less chance of picking up sidebar conversations. Also, I want to say we had a very good turnout online from residents. I'm hoping we'll have more this afternoon. Some of them stayed all the way to the end, which was encouraging. It's hard to do that, sit through 4 hours of Zoom meetings. So congratulations to those who did. And last, we have a change in the agenda. Chief Rich was unable, he was detained, I'll leave it that way. He was unable to attend this meeting. So we've had to change the agenda. Police, dispatch, and the animal control officer will not be covered during this meeting. And instead, due to some rapid scrambling by the mayor's office, we will have the senior center, Parks and Rec, and the libraries with us. Everything else on the agenda stays the same, just police, ACO, and dispatcher change. So I think that covers everything I have. Mayor, did you want to say anything?
No, that's a great start. I know Jim's got a tight time schedule today,
Yep,
so I'll stay
okay.
quiet.
And we have a tight agenda all day, so we will move quickly, or as quickly as we can. So Fire Marshal Mann, do you want to say a few words about your budget?
Well, I tried to stay tight like usual.
Yep.
I did have to ask for an increase in documents because the state's adopting a new fire code this year, which is going to require the purchase of several new code books, and they aren't cheap, unfortunately. So what I did is I cut the vehicle replacement pool out of SIP to kind of counterbalance that, to stay relatively flat.
Okay.
And there's a very slight increase in the phone, just because of what they cost. But I am trying, there's only one user I know of now, and that's the fire company that uses the fax line. I'm trying to get rid of that.
Good.
You know, we went from 5 to 1, but I'd like to just be none.
Do we need a fax machine in the fire station?
I haven't used it in 2 years, 3 years.
So
Pretty limited now.
Yeah, but could you use email or,
Yeah, we can drop them.
oh,
is there
then
any
the fax
official
line's gonna
reason?
go away.
So that's that $3,700 under fire marshal is
We'll
for
drop a little bit.
one. Oh, how many fax lines does that support?
Just one.
Just one?
Yeah.
All right.
But there are other phone lines.
Right,
Yeah.
right. They need phones, I imagine, in the firehouse.
Most likely.
Yeah, but the fax lines are more expensive than phone lines. Figure that.
Because we cut them. I'm sure it's a quantity thing.
I guess.
Anyway, okay, thank you. Councilors, anything for the fire marshal? Nice, tight, clean budget.
Trying.
So are you going to look to eliminate that fax line over in the coming year?
If he says yes, yes.
So that's, I think it's $37 a month. for the
37 or 38, yes.
So 37 times 12 motion. You could reduce and maybe
$400.
take them a month or two to get rid of it.
Yeah, Frontier at least.
How often do you have to get the code books updated, Jim?
Well, annually NFPA. And but the state code, fire code, it's every few years, except this year they're going to a whole new model. So I gotta go with a bunch of IBC documents, which they're not cheap. Normally I can kind of absorb it the last couple code cycles. I was able to finagle.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And as always, your thin budget. Okay. Steve?
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. You'll see, I think we wound up breaking it into two line items. So my operating is pretty limited. I would say it's $1,400. That was flat for this year. That covers my cell phone and office supplies and a couple other little things here and there. The big change that you'll see is there's a request for the firefighter physicals. I believe the requested amount was $35,000. So some background, we discussed this amongst the fire chiefs and myself. We discussed it with Karen from nursing. We also discussed it at the public safety committee or subcommittee. We've had some concerns that down the road, Dr. Gates, who's our current town physician, is not going to be available to continue with the firefighter physicals, the clinics that we do. And we've also had some, we believe, impact on recruitment because those physicals are only provided essentially when school's in session. So we're losing a lot of firefighters that are joining in the months, May through September and can't get a physical until the following September. So we believe it's adversely impacting recruitment and retention. So what we tried to do was, I think Karen reduced her budget by about $4,000, which is essentially the overtime that she would pay the nurses to come in and staff the clinics at the high school. And then I was able to meet with 3 different vendors and get some pricing between Yale and Haven, Physicians One, and a place called Balanced Wellness. And tried to come up with an a la carte expectation on physicals that's going to be compliant for what we need for the NFPA stuff. There's a little more advanced physicals for new members, and then we have a periodicity for our other members that are 1, 3, or 5 years based on their age. So I was able to basically take all the numbers of all the current members and then allocate for an average of 2 new members per fire company per month. Translate that all into what I think is a good number of 35,000. So I'd like to kick that off and start to offer better physicals. And essentially what would happen with those physicals is instead of having, one Wednesday a month that we have a clinic, we get a new member in, we can give them some sort of a printout and say, hey, call, let's say we just chose Physicians One, call, make an appointment, and tell them this is town ledger stuff, this is the expectations, go make it at your convenience, and then they report back to our medical officers of qualified or not qualified. We think it's a lot better streamlined process. So we're really trying to move on getting our volunteer numbers back up based on not losing people due to physicals and trying to incorporate them as quickly as possible. Because you get new members that come in and they've got a lot of gusto, they want to participate, and then you tell them, hey, you got to wait a month because the clinic was yesterday and we're losing people. So it's a huge impact in the fire service right now. So.
I think we were all pleasantly surprised with the number of volunteers both departments have. It's really a huge uptick from past years.
And to a point, Ledger, I was unaware until you guys did the tour. Ledger's got a very strong cadet program right now. So, John's in the room and thank you for that. It's 10 or 12 kids that are coming out, and that's kind of the future, is if we can get our hooks into those at 14, 15, 16 and keep them, there are replacements as we're moving up. And then, if they could bring a friend, that's great. It's a strong program that's developing there. So we're thankful for that.
So the operating expenses is where those for emergency services where they're showing up. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's 35,000 for physicals,
Yeah.
and then mine is 1,400. As I said, that really just covers my cell phone, some WB Mason purchases, and that's really about all I get out of that.
So, and I might have missed it early on what you were just saying, so I was trying to get a spreadsheet open here, but how often do the cost of these physicals reoccur?
It varies with age. So for instance, I'm in my 40s, I'm on the 3-year cycle.
Okay,
So every 3 years I have to get a physical. If you're under age 40, it's every 5 years. And then as soon as somebody hits 50, it's 8.
right, so we didn't have any last year?
They were covered through nursing.
Nursing,
Yeah,
oh, that's what it was.
nursing does
Okay.
a clinic, and so you didn't actually see a line item for firefighter physicals, but dispersed through there is Dr. Gates, and the other thing is we do have some members that get physicals at other places outside of the department or outside of the town, and we're able to essentially get a copy of their physical clearance, send it to the doctor, and he authorizes it as the medical director. And yeah, they're good. So there is actually a savings in there for, we have new members that come in with maybe a Navy physical, and if they provide us the physical and an EKG, we can send it through Med Control and get it authorized, which is kind of nice. And we're trying to minimize our costs in that room too. But the bottom line is we need to screen our members well, because on the flip side of things, if something's missed and we have, say, a cardiac death, line of duty death, that was preventable or foreseeable, and we didn't catch it on a good physical, then, there could be some liability on the town side of that. And that's what we're trying to do, is really have, our allegiances to making sure that the person that's coming through the door is healthy to be able to do the firefighting skills.
Thank you, Steve. I'm just trying to keep up with the meeting here with 10 years. So,
Absolutely.
councilors?
This is more of a narrative question than a line item question, but I feel like you've been working on this, the issue with the physicals, for some time.
Since I started this position.
Yeah,
it's been one of my
so,
major things.
Walk us through like the last, say, 3 years. How has it gotten better or worse?
This goes back to even before I was in the AES position, when you guys remember Joe Hunley? Joe was in charge of LVs for a while when LVs was still around. He and I had some lengthy conversations about some concerns he had on the physical side of things. And it was on the radar then. And essentially, the last 18 months has been meeting with a lot of vendors and trying to come up with reviews of what the NFPA requirements are, the OSHA requirements, trying to figure out what we actually need, because we could spend $1,000 per member coming through the door and put them through a battery of blood work and all sorts of other things. And in my research, they actually gave some interesting stuff that had true a la carte stuff. Physicians One recommends doing a physical health survey, a physical exam, a DOT exam, vision, vital signs, audiometry, spirometry, blood work, urinalysis, chest x-rays, depending on what was needed, and an EKG. And we've kind of cut that down, so we're not going to offer blood work and urinalysis, because those are some pretty extensive tests. And even if somebody needed, say, a stress test, we would refer them to their own physician to go deal with that at their cost, because that's like a $500 test that I don't necessarily we want to be fronting when the majority of the people could probably do that under their own health insurance. So we've really been having a lot of discussions to try to weave through what's available and what we want to open ourselves up to financing, and try to stratify that out. So that's really been the biggest part of it. I don't know if that answers your question or not on that, but
Yeah.
a lot of conversations on if this is doable or practical, concerns on who's going to authorize certain things. Like our current practice for our cadets and juniors is if they have a physical from their physician, the state form that everybody has to send in annually, usually they submit that and that gets sent to Dr. Gates. So we're going to actually probably adopt like an administrative policy so that we don't have to pay a physician to review that in the event that person 14 to 17 has this particular physical, we're going to accept it and they're good to go. And you'll just turn that into the medical officer in each department and get that signed off. But we can do that administratively rather than have the physician sign off on it, as long as everybody's in agreement with it.
So part of the challenge has been what you mentioned about the frequency, the availability.
Yeah.
So I still hear you talking about physicals only being available once a month.
Yeah. And it's tough because there's months, and Karen will be the first one to admit this, there's months where we cancel clinics because we have 1 or 2 people. But that becomes, it wasn't that we only had 1 or 2 people that needed the physicals. We had 1 or 2 people calling, making appointments and showing up for those physicals. And the question becomes, is the time and the date the problem? So in other words, if you work a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, you can't come on a Wednesday at 3 o'clock. And so all of a sudden now we're left with this bind where the times that we're offering aren't commensurate with what your availability is. And this would be nice because they've got some flexible hours at either of the 3 places that we looked at. And the ability to go before work, and hopefully the availability to maybe send a career staff 1 at a time on duty so that we're not short staffing the town. And it may save actually on overtime. Because we at 3:30 they get out at 4. There's inherently a half an hour, an hour of overtime that might be incurred. So maybe we can pare that back on that side of things.
Okay.
The hardest part's been trying to figure out what that number is that I was gonna ask for based on our census, and the census is always changing. If Ledger gets 12 new members, August, then we really gotta take a look at it, but at least it's in there, at least it's a placeholder, at least we can get the initiative going, and then we can kind of see how things go as we go, and, maybe move up or move down on our financing. Based on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I've reconciled it. Okay, yeah. So, no, I wasn't, just to be clear, I wasn't disputing any of the need for, obviously, that's a great thing that we're doing to make sure that we have healthy cadets and healthy employees in general.
Yeah.
I was just trying to reconcile the nursing line to make sure that, we are in fact, and, it seems like it was weaved throughout the nursing line in terms of different salaries and services and things of that nature.
Absolutely.
But I see somewhat of a commensurate reduction. It seems like there's about $32,000 reduction in the nursing, so overall, I'm sure there's some other things in there, but.
Yeah, Karen can speak better to that. She
Yeah.
had said she thought it was about $4,000 she spent on the clinics.
Right,
annually. They are still, and nursing still offers a great service to us, and a plug to them. They still do our PPD testing for tuberculosis. They still come out to the fire companies and offer that, and we still have the ability, the daytime staff
Right.
rotates through and they come up and get their test, and then they come back in 2 or 3 days and have it read. So they're still doing those sorts of things, and they're
Right.
still of good service to us, but the actual physician stuff, we've
Yeah.
long since had some concerns about
But
both
we're-
the quality and availability.
But it doesn't seem like with the splitting of the line, basically the funding for your clinics and your physicals, that's moving over to your budget line. We're not losing any services here. It's simply just switching where it's funded.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
okay.
I liken it to, it's similar to what we did a couple of years ago, and I would think that prior to that, we'd had like 2.5 career firefighters funded in each chief's line. We just
Okay.
merged those and put them under mine. So it made more sense. It was streamlined. That was something
Yeah.
Marcia had kind of taken charge on just because it was easier for her.
I think the only other question I have is the increase in the overtime. Under admin.
Oh, yeah, what
emergency
do we go
services.
from 8,500 to
Right.
10,000, I think?
Yeah, it seems like, so your 21 actuals were 7,600 and.
Yeah,
22
it's.
was 85 and now. we're
Seems as though oftentimes, and this year's been a big one because we had a snowstorm that we had.
Yeah.
I want to say each guy was 30 hours times, 5 firefighters. That's a pretty significant thing. The public safety overtime seems to be something that we're always flirting with being right on the edge of it.
Right.
And I figured, if we can, I'd like to see that go up a scooch so that we don't maybe have to come back to finance to get that authorization in, April and May. And obviously it depends on the amount of fires and callbacks and staffing that we need to do due to storms,
Right.
that sort of stuff. So,
Yeah, I'm noticing
obviously
that.
we don't try to spend that. It's not like we're sitting there going, okay, let's see how we
Yeah.
can spend
No,
it.
no. The reason I was asking is because your year-to-date actuals have eclipsed your 22 budget.
Yeah.
So I didn't know, and they're beyond what you're asking for. So I didn't know if that was a function of, what we've had this year specifically, or is that something you see as an ongoing
We got
basis?
whacked with some pretty good storms this year that required a bunch of.
I'm always, this is not there yet, just to be clear, but I'm always looking at what's the tipping point between paying overtime and
Mhm,
hiring another body.
Yeah.
mhm.
Well, so to counter that, the overtime that was paid out is pretty much contractually overtime. You wouldn't actually,
Okay,
minimize that by hiring another staff member, because a lot of that is triggered by past things that we've had and agreements that we've had. So for instance, when a blizzard warning comes out, that's a trigger that thou shall call the career staff in.
gotcha.
When that blizzard warning is, 18 hours, then that's a lot of dollars
Right,
going out
right.
right there that we don't really have any say in. And
That's-
also, any what we call working fire. So Chidley Way the other day was a working
Mm-hmm.
fire. We had mutually coming in. It's another thou shall offer them to come in. And if one person comes in, great financially. If 5 of them come in, then not so great financially, but we're still getting the staffing that we need to help mitigate. So it's that balance of the checkbook and the needs of the fire, and if we can't tell them not to come in because they're contractually allowed to come in. I guess this is probably how I'm towards that.
So you can't tell them not to come in, but you can't force them to come in.
Right, exactly. In that sense, yeah.
I'm good. Yeah. All right.
Thank you, Steve.
All right.
If you stay at the table for the two fire companies, I think that'd be helpful. So.
Yeah, Chief Saccone won't be able to make it.
Yep,
So
he
we've
sent
got
us, yeah.
the assistant chief and the captain here to help
Hi,
out.
guys. John,
Yeah, sorry about that.
So for the folks online, this is Chief John Mann, and he is Chief of Ledyard Fire Company. And anything you want to say, John, before you start?
Got nothing. Just roll right into it if you're good.
Okay, sure. My perennial question, fire hose testing.
Yep.
And maybe, maybe both departments and Steve can speak to this. What are we doing in fire hose testing this year?
When are we doing?
No, what are we doing? There's an increase in it.
So there was a slight increase, $400. That's just because the cost to actually perform it increased
Okay,
per length. And that covers the hard suction and the other appliances.
okay. So,
The actual hose testing, we do ourselves, but
Yep.
this is the appliance part of it.
okay. And I'm trying to recall the discussion and the final decisions we made last year regarding hoses and appliances and the difference between the two departments. Gales Ferry, I believe, does their hose testing.
Yeah, we do
Yeah.
all of those.
Yeah,
Both departments do their own.
okay. And now both are doing appliance.
Yeah.
too. Okay,
And appliances could be nozzles, it could be some of the other stuff.
Right.
Tested. So.
okay. And operating expenses increased.
So operating increased because our, it's called Firehouse Software. It's our reporting software.
Okay.
It
yeah,
is becoming obsolete. It's going away in December.
okay,
Basically, they're no longer going to support it. System, it's been around for quite a long time. I don't even know how long off the top of my head. And the company that bought them out decided to get rid of it because it's cost savings instead of running two different platforms. Unfortunately, the new programs cost a lot more versus what we had before. Initial setup fees somewhere right around 7,000 to 8,000, depending on what modules we're gonna get.
Mhm.
We're still trying to work through that, trying to figure out what's best, and then
Mhm.
the following year, it drops down to about 4,000.
Good.
Uh,
Who's the new company?
It's called ESO reporting.
Okay,
We're leaning towards them primarily because the training program that we use online
Mhm.
can communicate with each other.
Mhm.
So it reduces some capabilities there of having someone else manually enter things into the system. So that's why we're leaning to them
Mhm.
primarily.
So I see you thinking over there. We've used the Firehouse software for 20 years, probably. It's a standalone program that's installed on our servers and it doesn't go anywhere electronically. The issue has been everything's going cloud-based now. And so they're sunsetting that program effective the end of this year. There's going to be no support. You can still use the program, but there's no
Right.
support.
So
So
we
if
had
it-
that conversation the other day.
Yeah. So now we're faced with data migration issues and, modules, and it is gonna make things easier because if John wants to do a report from home, he can do his report, he can log in and do his report right from home, or, the members can, some of them work at dispatch centers, whatever, they can kind of work remotely. So it's actually gonna increase productivity, I think.
Yeah.
And it increases access, but there's a fairly significant cost on getting things off the ground and getting the system built for each department and then
Right.
rolling all the data over. That's been a struggle, and there's been some of the larger departments that, it was a $10,000 or $15,000 expense. So
Right.
luckily we've got a few less files to populate.
Yeah, no, my look wasn't because I was disputing the need for it or anything like that. It was actually two-pronged. For your current operating budget for this year. As of the end of December, you still were under half spent. Is there an opportunity to forward fund some of this expense with the remaining operating expense you have for the year, or are those earmarked already?
Possibly. I know it's a little bit lower than that now.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
I had to buy some medical equipment. But depending on how things go, I might be able to squeeze it in there, but it's kind of hard
I
to
just
say.
didn't know if it was something we could do piecemeal or,
So the way that they work it is, once you sign the contract, you have 30 days to pay the full amount. They won't don't split it up as far as
Okay,
the bills
Right.
go.
but if it happens to come to pass that way and you still have budget left over at the end of this year to blunt the expense for next year, that would probably be advantageous.
I think part of the thing you're seeing on the numbers and the percentages, we have a long history of getting bit by vehicle repairs. So I think both the chiefs kind of leave a little bit unspent for a while in case, because we've had to come back and say transfer
Transfer,
$5,000, $6,000,
yeah.
$7,000 over from training to other things that break. So I think they both have kind of adopted the mentality of let's maybe keep our expenditures under what we should be per month, with the idea of, you know, as it gets towards that April, May timeframe, we can get our new equipment purchases, but we're also not putting ourselves where we're doing new equipment in August and all of a sudden our
Right.
budget's shot, so.
So then, sorry, I'm having continuous
That's
thoughts
fine.
here. So I mean, this, to me, what you described the software as, it sounds more like an infrastructure expense. I mean, in an IT infrastructure expense, right? It's something that's helping you do your job better. So my head is going towards other ways to fund this, perhaps the capital budget. I don't know if ARPA might be a good avenue for that. But it just, I'm thinking about, because it is, in my mind, I'm not even trying to misconstrue it. It just seems to me like it's a straight out IT infrastructure expense. There might be some other avenues we could pursue funding for this. But I guess in general, a question for the counselors who have more tenure than I and the mayor. This is IT, and this doesn't fall under MIS, even though I know it's the fire department. Why wouldn't it fall under MIS for integration?
So we looked at consolidating on software platforms quite a few years ago. The fire department wanted to stay with Firehouse. And to answer your question directly, if you keep it with the department, you understand where your software costs are. Yes, you could put it under MIS,
Yeah.
but then you've got this big line item for
Right.
software, and it's, well, who's
Well,
that for? So
well,
then you have to break it all
You're
out.
keeping track of where they.
Yeah, I know.
the expenses,
Yeah,
but-
and we don't separate it
So-
for Parks and Recs, Senior Center, or the police either.
Oh, you know.
I mean, we do separate, I should say,
Yeah.
it's separate out, so it's with them instead of under Regina's budget.
But in the case of the fire company, at least with Gales Ferry, it's a separate organization.
Right, right.
So you'd be doing it differently for
That's very
Ledyard
true.
versus Gales
Yep.
Ferry.
Well, that's not
Um,
good either.
No, it's a volunteer organization.
Yeah, I know, I know.
Mhm.
So, but anyway,
Yep.
that's a whole other conversation.
I'm thinking for purchasing reasons, power purchasing, things of that
Well-
nature, negotiations.
Well, that's kind of the question I have is, I'm remembering back, we looked at several software companies. And one of them, I think we went with for the police and dispatch. And kept Firehouse separate
Mhm.
because the fire companies felt that was a better application.
Yeah, I think that was regarding a CAD system, if memory serves.
Is that Power Phone?
No, I think it was when they went to IMC they're using.
IMC.
Oh,
that was it.
IMC.
Yeah.
It was
So-
their CAD system, because we were looking at the tie-in and
Yeah,
the Firehouse stuff didn't have the ability to link. The new ESO stuff will have the ability to link and to,
okay.
essentially, when dispatch sends a call out, it'll push the data into our stuff, so we'll have all our
Yeah.
times populated. We'll just be able to go in and do the report.
Have you looked at IMC side by side with ESO?
IMC doesn't offer Firehouse reporting or
Oh, they don't?
NFIRS report.
Okay.
And that's really what this is about, is the
All right.
NFIRS stuff. So that's that national fire information reporting system that everything gets uploaded into the US, it's FEMA, US Fire Administration's website. And then they collect data based on like building fires and call types and false responses. And then the other component of this is I search both the department stuff to do the grants.
Mhm.
So I have to have a whole variety of data come grant season to
Yeah.
pull out. So.
So, back to, first question. I think you mentioned ESO is the parent company. They bought Firehouse.
Correct.
So have you tried to push back a little bit with them, say, look, you guys are just continuing the software. Now we're paying more to go on to your stuff.
The only thing, so based on my conversation with them, the only thing they would offer for us at least is free data migration.
Okay,
That part of it
that's
is
where I'm
covered under
going.
mine,
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, good.
but that's all they would budge on.
So what's the difference between this year and next year that's going down next
So
year?
next-
Setup.
They're saying, based on the quote I got, it's just over 4,000 for a reoccurring cost a year.
Okay,
the initial setup fee, just because of all the training and downloads, and they basically got to build the site
Yep.
to, put all our people in there and everything. That's with upfront costs.
so that's part of the migration. I mean, that's, you could, you could argue both
Correct.
sides of that. But
Correct. They're looking at the fact of the previous reports.
Yep.
From all the years that we've been inputting into Firehouse,
Mhm.
taking all that stuff and converting it over to the new system. That way there, we don't have to manually enter it in or store it somewhere else.
Part of that 4,000 though is off-site network, server storage. So right now, the current practice, and I'm not sure what John does, but I happen to do the stuff for Gales Ferry is I have to do a Firehouse backup once a month, so all of my files get backed up.
Right,
And
right.
then we burn a CD quarterly, and that goes
Yeah.
in the town, I think it's in the clerk's office in the safe.
Mhm.
So that if, God forbid, that building burned down, we would be able to grab that stuff and repopulate it. So there's this whole thing of data management because we're keeping it on a local server that eliminates that need. And that's part of the funding for that is it's
Got it.
populating it on some server that they manage, and they have mirror sites and backup and
Yep.
stuff. So you'll never lose your data,
Yeah.
which is kind of nice. Actually.
So maybe we should look at the one-time cost
Right.
for, as a capital versus, and then figure out where we report.
And it's 4,000 a year. You said 4,000 next year.
Yeah.
Or sorry, 24, I'm assuming. FY 24.
Correct.
So, and then it's 4,000 recurring every year after that. Okay.
Yep.
And obviously is there a contract we signed for that service?
Yeah, there would be.
Well, what's the length of that contract?
It's annual.
Annual. So, okay, so it could increase.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Okay. In new equipment,
Mhm.
the line item went down. Just curious.
New equipment?
Well, went back to their original FY 22 budget. My question would be is why did FY 22 go up and you're behind on spending it? Is there a,
So, this year it was decided, we got a deal on a car for myself. So we, talking with the mayor, Marcia at the time, they took the money out of my new equipment to purchase the vehicle. And then shortly thereafter, money in my stipend account got transferred back to my new equipment to keep my new equipment there. They reduced the money in the incentive.
Got it.
And that's why my chief stipend incentive line dropped down as well.
is that incentive?
Yeah,
Okay.
So for years, we've had one chief with a vehicle and a lower stipend, one without a vehicle and with a higher stipend.
Mhm.
And at some point, we had to kind of equalize them one
Right.
way or another, and this was the best solution we felt to straighten it out. So very inexpensive
Yeah.
Ford
So-
Explorer.
The FY 22 budget then for this is, I mean, right now it's 12,500. That hasn't changed even with the funds switching. So you're not gonna be spending 12,500 this
no,
year.
it'd be 10,000,
Yeah, this year, FY 22,
correct.
right? Okay. So in other words, it's just staying the same.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. It was restored, spent and restored, so.
yeah.
I believe that was the only other changes that I've had.
It is. Counselor, anything?
No, that was, new
Okay.
equipment was my question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So now we have Jeff Earhart and Nick Bosom.
While you guys are all here, all of you, including John Mann, thank you very much for what you guys did in the last 3 weeks, 2 structure fires that were major, unbelievable work. Great job.
Thank you.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, watch all the cords and octopus and everything all over the floor.
An owl up here, the octopus down there.
Got to ask John about his capital.
Oh,
Let's take a quick look and maybe Steve can cover this.
Come back in.
CBA, battery vent fan, first pump tool, fire hose replacement. Bless you.
Oh,
got usually goes 5 or 6.
one more. What,
The Owl
only-
Pro got it all, Marcia.
Mhm.
The only thing
You
that's
swing
not
back in order to get
normal replacement equipment that I don't know about is the battery vent fan.
He's coming right back.
Oh, yes, okay. So SCBA, Hurst
Mhm.
tool replacement, fire hose, and PPE is all stuff that we regularly replace, so.
And they did just get a new set of Hurst tools, so I'm thinking that the money that's in there is now to get purchased the next set whenever.
Right.
This is like a 10.
Those are battery operated one now, right?
Yeah, they got a good deal. They're gonna
Yeah.
go like 20% off. too.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Capital.
Sorry, chief. I'll wait till you get up here. Battery vent fan, what is that?
So that was, to replace one of the gas powered fans that we had. Basically now the technology is there. for-
Oh, yeah, right.
With- this last year,
Yeah.
last year we had it.
Yep.
So we ended up buying it early. And then this is just to replenish the cost of my capital account.
Got it. Okay. It's good.
Yeah, I remember.
That'll drop off next year.
Yeah, it should be next year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was it. Yeah, everything else is normal.
Thank you.
He does have a narrative in there, so if you're in the capital budget, you just literally click on battery vent fan.
Yeah.
Right at the top of that, gives a 1 paragraph narrative.
I have to repeatedly apologize for not looking at the narratives.
That's all right.
I never do. It's so many different places to go. I'm looking at the spreadsheet. So apologies.
No problem.
Okay. Let's see. Yep. Operating expenses went up 23%. So curious about what that included.
Same in line with Chief Man, the firehouse migration and such. It would similar fashions in regards to shopping around and such.
And and the reason we do this separately is because of the nature of the two different fire departments.
Yeah, so we have 2 separate called fire department identification numbers, so we have to report separately.
All right.
And again, it's actually going along with Chief Holyfield, it's all part of grants. If we don't submit this information, we're now ineligible for federal grants anyway, so we always want to obviously continue doing that to be able to pursue those things.
So we have 2 departments, Tim,
Right.
of volunteers,
Yeah.
which are separate. We have professionals who are shared, paid professional firefighters who are shared between the 2 departments. And then the town of Ledyard owns the Ledyard Emergency Services, building, where Gales Ferry Fire Company owns, bought and paid for, raised the money and bought and paid for. built
That's why
that
you see the truck garaging in Gales Ferry's budget, but not in Ledger's.
Right.
Because the town actually gives Gales Ferry some money to keep the lights on in the building,
Is that
such
why,
as they do with,
that's why the operating expenses are overall more?
Yes.
For,
yeah, it's almost
Yeah,
$60,000 for the truck garaging.
well, I'm talking about just the operating expenses line is more than Ledyard's. In general, even
Yep.
before you consider the software, so. So that's something that if we could, if we're gonna consider one for capital and the other as well, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're gonna incur the same capital expenses that we just heard about too.
Correct, yeah. Yeah, when we to add what regards to the conversation earlier, while shopping around, unfortunately, it's a smaller market. There's not a lot of players
Right.
for the software specifically. But speaking with other vendors, it's the data migration that costs so much money. So we have almost 20 years in information in that one software service, and to move it to a different platform, like they're not going to offer it for free. They were straight up telling us, and so the overall cost ended up just being kind of a wash.
This is what software companies do. They buy the
Yeah.
competitors, discontinue, then charge you for the other software that you don't have to buy. And then they move to the cloud so they can charge you more every year instead of once.
Yeah.
So
they're
it's a good
kinda
business.
Jaw dropped, yeah.
Yeah.
So just for my edification, and that's completely not budget related, but the difference between Gales Ferry and Ledyard Fire Departments in terms of, volunteer and the town funded status. You said you have a different fire code. So is that the same for every municipality? I mean, if a municipality, New London, for example, I don't think New London has any volunteer departments.
Not anymore, we don't.
It's
Yeah.
just an identification number.
So, but is so like in New London, for example, you said
Separate.
they don't?
Separate, so New London would have their own code, each different department in Groton would have their own
So
FDID.
New London for all of their firehouses have
Yeah.
one code.
Yeah, because it's only one department.
Correct. So
Yeah.
they would, if they were on this software, they would pay the one-time capital cost for all of their firehouses. And then the annual expense, but it might be more. Is it based
Yeah,
on
it's
a-
more because each, to my knowledge, at least, because we're going through it at work, the same thing.
Yeah,
We have different terminals in each firehouse. They were gonna charge us more because of A, the data migration, and B, because
I
to
guess we're,
do,
yeah.
They also run 8 times the amount of calls we do.
yeah, we're doing about.
So, yeah, and I'm not trying to draw a comparison between the two municipalities. What I'm trying to say is that if we were one fire, if we didn't have separate fire codes, right? We would probably still be incurring the same expense because we would have, well, I mean, what's their measurement? You said it's a terminal, the terminals within the firehouses.
Access points, yeah.
So we would have the same amount of access points, so we'd be paying the same amount, it'd just be one payment instead of two.
Right.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah, I mean, it would be, I mean, I hadn't thought about it. I mean, it definitely would be an avenue possibly to pursue in regards to seeing if they can, like I said, identify both, since both departments are part of the same budgetary system to a degree.
We looked at doing merging both departments at one point, but there were some concerns, especially because of some of the personnel related things that are in there. We have access levels, so like I have full administrative rights at Gales Ferry because I actually take care of the whole system, and there's a couple other people like Jeff has full admin rights and the chief does. So there's certain things in there, like not really medical records, but like social security numbers and some other sensitive stuff that not all members have, and we couldn't find a way to break it so that like I can't see ledgers and ledger can't see ours if we pile
Like
everybody
a
in
little
one system.
firewall between the two.
Yeah, there wasn't really an effective way to do that. So that's
Okay.
part of the reason why we decided to leave each agency on their own, because with different governance or, administrative bodies, we thought it was a little more appropriate to have their private, I'll call it, information separate.
I'm
Do they,
wondering.
do they charge you for user licenses?
Yeah.
I don't remember how many licenses. Right now, Gales Ferry has 2, so we're only allowed 2 people to log in at the same time. So
Okay.
if a computer sticks open or something, we gotta run around and reset
So
computers.
that's not a big purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember how many simultaneous logins you can have with the new stuff.
I'm just curious about that, like that whole migration occurring, if that's like something that we can bundle. Like you said, keep this.
Yeah. They're giving us a pretty significant discount when I talked with Hannah's our rep. They actually ate a bunch of stuff when I talked about it.
Andrea?
New equipment.
Yep.
So the 2021 actual was about 4,100. The 2022 budget was 55. But then the 2022 actual looks like 0. And now 2023's proposed budget is 6,000.
I can explain the 500 increase, that most of the equipment is under for radios and such, so generally speaking, that's purchased towards the end of the year as well in regards to, that's kind of like like we mentioned earlier, if there has to be a transfer, it's gonna be, from that expense, so that would be a majority of why you're not seeing that used at this moment. The there's 2 increases of 500 training and new equipment. And that's for the possibility of reoccurrence of like a COVID issue. Again, we definitely had an increased expense, even though we were receiving a lot of equipment and funding during that whole period. There was some additional expenses on the medical side of things to prepare for ourselves. So just a sort of more of an ancillary anticipation of that never happens, but yeah. So.
Under vehicle equipment parts, you're actually requesting less money, but I'm assuming that's because you are spending less than what you budgeted this year anyway.
It's kind of a shuffle, well.
Which
Not
I
after
think
this week.
Yeah.
surprises me based on what you told us.
Yeah.
I told you that.
You
So
know,
short of like, yeah, the immediate historical incidences, it's kind of a shuffling of a little bit. There's actually technically a $2,000 increase, even though it doesn't reflect that. There's a $5,000 decrease. That was because last year we had to do a 1-year push for the tanker that we have at Gales Ferry. All the tires had to be replaced, which was a huge expenditure. It wasn't something that had been built up in regards to capital improvement. So it got pushed up. So we are technically, I guess you could say, in line with the previous years. We're requesting a $2,000 increase, but it reflects as a $5,000 decrease.
when you say previous years, I mean, I'm only looking at the data that's in front
Sure,
of me.
no, of course. Yeah.
And, 21 actual was huge. It was probably because of what you were just talking about, it was 61.6. The 22 budget was 42. Revised budget, you're keeping it at 42, but you've only spent, well, as of December, 15.4. And so I'm not seeing, I'm still saying, in my head, it's $5,000 decrease. still,
Yeah.
right?
Are
Are you saying that it used?
I can show you previous years.
He's got
Yep.
notes.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
So you'll see in
Oh,
FY
and FY
20 was
yeah,
32.5,
yeah.
21 was 35. I can even go back further. if
No,
you'd like.
that's all right. That jives with what he's saying. I just can't see that far back on this.
Yeah,
I think
so
one of those, we had did the ladder truck have a turntable issue? We had something.
Yeah, that
pretty
was
significant.
20.
hydraulics.
16, I think.
That was that far back? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or 17, because
Wow.
the new
Crazy
one's a
calculation.
17.
So-
16, you added $11,000 to that line. item,
Yeah, that
so
was the
that's-
T pipe on
sounds
that.
about right, yeah.
So let me ask you a different question then. Is this enough for next year? Based on what you're seeing and, Steve's scaring us. with some
Yeah,
of the
I mean,
comments he made
the
at the last
Crystal ball,
budget
shine up the
meeting.
crystal ball.
So,
I'm not even commenting, because I literally on Tuesday night at the officers meeting, I'm like, we're doing really good on vehicle repairs. 4 hours
Why would you
later,
say that
the
out loud?
radiator, yeah, well, it's all my fault.
So I suggest we stop talking.
Yeah, we're not gonna will that into existence.
hey, that's, I mean, I'm assuming that's your best estimate of what you'll need. but
Yeah, I
mean,
believe Chief
it's-
Sakolin's confident that, we'll be
Okay.
able to work in that.
All right.
Capital. Jaws of life, that's regular recurring, PPE, regular recurring, generator replacement, regular recurring, firefighting equipment. That we covered at the last meeting, apparatus, fire hose, regular.
Yep.
Chief vehicle, breathing air bottles, SCBA, and radios, all regular replacement items. So I don't have any questions on capital. That's good.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Right. So I'm gonna make my annual statement that I annually forget to make, which is that we appreciate everything volunteers do, because if we didn't have volunteers, equipment is expensive, but man, people cost more. So we thank you guys for what you do.
Appreciate it.
It's incredible work.
Absolutely. Appreciate the volunteering you do as well.
Yeah.
Incredible work.
We don't save the money like you do. So this is what I'll-
Yeah, thank you very much.
And most of the time, we don't get the finance committee out at 9:30 at night on a Saturday. It's driving rain and
They're
wind.
more than welcome. We enjoyed having you out.
Yeah.
You gotta wear a suit.
You guys are out on the open house. Yeah, and everyone's welcome, always
Yeah.
stuff to join in. We'll get your hands dirty.
That's been a great thing about the last year. I really feel as there's been a lot more communication, a lot more understanding for everybody to try to put our heads together and look at things and learn about each other's processes and jobs and all that stuff. That's been a good effort that I think we put on the last
Pretty
year.
cool
Let's
stuff
see it
too.
continue.
Enjoy it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right. Thank you,
Great, thanks
gentlemen.
again.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Have a good day.
I've got to blame John a little bit. So it's the same night that I made that comment, he gave me the stuff from Green Goblin and said, I think we're good to go to sell it.
Just-
And 4 hours later,
It's in service.
it's in service. I'm like,
We're
"Oh."
we're gonna do what we didn't do Thursday, take a quick break.
Oh,
Tim
yeah.
has to step out anyway,
That's
but I'm
right.
sure some people would have appreciated one Thursday. I know.
That's
I
right,
would.
we didn't.
So
Wow.
let's take 5 minutes
Okay.
while Tim takes this.
Thank you, guys.
I know when we were done on Thursday, I was
Yeah.
fried,
Outside,
just absolutely fried.
I definitely hit the point where.
Yeah, that was.
I can't process.
Awesome.
That worked out well.
So welcome Scott Johnson. And we are going to talk about senior center first. Anything that you want to tell us? Well, yes.
I mean, it's pretty straightforward this year. I think we minus $14 total, with the exception of the salary increases. I forgot what that was for, not copier, that's Parks and Rec.
This difference column is difference versus 22, right?
Oh, yeah, I didn't change that. That's a typo. I use the same spreadsheet every year.
Oh, this one.
I see I'm sorry, go ahead.
So equipment maintenance went down slightly. Went down. Recall what that's for?
I want to say it was the cable bill. Yeah, maintenance and leases. So it was a change, I think, in the cable bill.
Okay.
The company got
Well,
bought out.
Oh, okay.
It didn't go. Well, it
Or
only
no,
went
it went
down
up.
relative to the FY22 revised budget.
Yeah, that's
It's
true.
similar,
Yeah,
it's the same thing as
Right.
your.
It's actually, it
FY22
went
original.
up because
Yeah.
of the cable bill, $36.
Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, we're looking at something different then.
So we have two columns in our, or in my spreadsheet. One is difference between the revised budget, difference between the original budget, and yeah, it's zero for the original budget.
Right.
So it went down, then it went back up. And
I don't
then,
know, I can't see.
Well, your
the others say.
FY22 revised budget was 1880. And for senior center equipment maintenance. The revised
oh.
budget, not the original budget. The original budget was 1,500.
In,
You
you're
must have
talking
done
about
some
20?
shuffling.
Oh, we did some shuffling.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
So-
moved some things like the cable bill and I think, I want to say like the newspaper all into that line. Because it made sense. Yeah, so that's cable, internet and water. I believe before it was just water.
I have a question, but this might actually be a better question for Marcia. We have so many line items that are historically zeros. Why are we holding those?
We need to have them so that you can, when you're looking at all the budgets back to 15.
Okay,
Consistency.
so we
You
don't,
can, when you're looking at it, you can hide, if there's an I.
Yeah.
You can hide those zero
Okay.
budgets for your own benefit.
okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
The supervisors was
yeah.
absorbed into Parks and Rec and DNA.
Any other questions?
one. So operating expenses, maybe you just answer that. I wasn't paying attention. That went down slightly compared to original, but up compared to revised budget.
I believe I took a little bit out of office because we didn't need quite as much. I'm sharing with the Parks and Rec for supplies. So.
Awesome, thank you.
Are there other places where the merger of the two, where were the obvious cost savings?
The salary was, I think, the big one, because that supervisor's line went from, was it 46? Down to essentially, I think, 19. That then was split into Parks and Rec and visiting nurses budget.
Any unexpected expenses from that?
From the merger, we're still working out some of the kinks, believe it or not. It's been difficult to kind of forecast too, because COVID kind of happened when we merged, so I'm waiting to see an actual year to see where we can really cut some things, with them both being together.
Got it. Thank you.
So I don't see anything in capital
Right.
for senior center. So I think you guys are okay.
I'm all set.
Ready to go. Okay, so let's move on to Parks and Rec.
We already went over this capital budget.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, Parks and Rec operating.
Right. No, I was sorry, that was just validating.
So the increase in maintenance is the porta potty contract going from $61.10 a unit to $62.
In maintenance?
Yes, repairs and maintenance. That's where
Oh,
we
yeah.
take the porta potties out of. So
I didn't even flag that. That's-
But then we cut 105 in operating. And of course, I didn't bring the sheet that had what I cut on. I printed a
What
fresh one.
usually constitutes your operating expenses?
So,
Other than, the, obviously the lines in your budget that I can plainly see what they account
Yeah.
for. but what falls
So-
in there?
copiers, about 1,300. We have membership to the Park and Rec Association, equipment, different events, first aid supplies for all the leagues and summer camp, ink for the printers. We have the locksmith, MyRec, our registration software is in that as well. And that's about 4,000. Like WB Mason, our office supplies, some park support, some of the playground for the summer camp.
Right.
We do get some supplies, and the Red Cross training for those, for the staff comes out of there as well. As well as the drug test, but actually I'm talking to Don, we might be switching to do background checks instead. It might be about the same price as what the drug tests were. Now that the drug tests keep going up.
On the electricity, you got a majority of your budget for this year already spent, about almost 80%. Is that due to a phasing thing with the activities that you hold? I mean,
Yeah, so it's heavy. We get a lot of usage in the fall with
Right.
field lights. And then we will have some usage in the spring as things, start back up. But the fall is a big
heavy
time.
electricity.
Oh,
time.
yeah, because when
So,
those field lights go on, it's that you see the bills, you would
so that's not,
sticker shock.
I shouldn't be taking that as an indicator that it's not enough money. It's just because of the way that.
Yeah, the
usage
way
is
the
phased.
year works for us.
And is that the same with like the assistant wages, for example, and
So I think was the assistant laid off for part of the year. That should be consistent.
okay, well, I mean, all the wages really, they were majority spent at the end of the calendar year already. Like between 66 and 68%.
Yeah, because that should be, usually Marcia or Don handle that. That comes right out. They do those numbers for the wages. Or you, yeah.
I'm looking.
Oh,
at,
are you talking about custodian? I
well,
call it something
everything,
different.
Department head wages, supervisors and assistant wages.
So those should be consistent because that's just the.
Right. Oh, they're
the
consistent with
bi-weekly
each other.
Paycheck.
Yeah, they're
That's pretty
consistent with each
consistent
other.
with the fiscal year, though.
Yeah, because
Is it
it's
though?
July,
At the end of the year?
July's the
June,
end of the year.
maybe-
June.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
right,
June
end-
30th.
End of June, and this is probably lagging a month.
So
Well, actually, that
right.
would make it out of sync if it was lagging a month, because
It's-
this is as of 12/30, so it's really.
Yeah,
Yeah, those should be up to date numbers.
Because
Okay.
the
Ah,
This is
50,
all
says
right,
out
I
of,
see.
as of 12:30. I missed that.
mhm.
Okay,
the 51,710, that one, it looks like everything's there because we pay that. That goes to the school as a lump sum. So
The
at
other
the end of the
wages?
year, yeah.
Yeah.
So actually, I'm just now getting a few of those bills. That's for the custodians for basketball.
Yeah, that 51, the as of 12/31, that's like as of today, actually. That's what I have.
Oh,
like,
good.
As our current.
So it's not as of 12/31. That's,
I would suspect not, that's
Okay.
actually a current.
because that didn't make sense to me.
That's, what are you looking at? It should be as of 12/31.
The 50 actuals for
Well, so what account ID?
Which one are you looking at?
the assistant wages, what you were talking
Yep.
about.
I have 66.3% spent as of 12/31.
Yeah, the 51,090.
It might be, that's
That's
two
as of today.
staff members though, so the number, it might be a little different. That's the
Oh,
office.
no, I mean,
assistant
wages
and-
should be
Is the clear
consistent
note
with the
all in?
fiscal
Should
year.
be.
Mhm.
No, I uploaded the file as of 12/31.
Yeah.
That would have no way of knowing what
that-
today's.
That number includes the 3/4 payroll.
Interesting.
So
Yeah,
what's in ClearGov is not as of 12/31, it's a,
Based on that number, that's,
Can you give me the account number?
yes, it is.
Is it lower?
Org is 101, 60101,
Uh-huh.
and the object is 51,615.
I can't remember, when did we hire French?
Sure, it's fine.
Because if it's lower, it could be because
Oh, right.
she
I mean, it's not
wasn't,
bad.
we didn't have.
No,
an
no,
office
no,
assistant
it's
for it.
always, yeah. To me, I would have expected to see closer to 50% if it was really 12/31.
Or was it was it union, the increase for Monica? Did they finally agree on that?
No.
That's supervisor line.
Oh, yeah, yeah, so that's Brandon and Russell.
That's not really a Parks and Rec issue, I think. It's so.
So I always have questions about revenue, so I was trying to see that in ClearGov. And it looks like, if I'm looking at the right line, I'm looking at program registration fees. F21 actual was 4,225.
So that sounds about right, because, so that's just for the pavilions.
Oh, okay.
All the program fees go into special revenue. It's
That's
a
right.
in and
Yeah, I
out.
have this question every year. Can I see those in ClearGov?
I don't believe,
What do you
not in
do?
ClearGov, in
Whatever it
Munis.
is, the O2O, not
The
O2O,
Parks and Rec program fees.
That go through, that
That's
goes through
Munis.
0207?
O2O7.
Yeah, no,
No, so it won't be in there. Okay.
no, but Ian could look it up, right?
I
So-
can look up whatever you'd like.
Yeah, so the point I want to make is that Parks and Rec has a large budget that is partially offset by revenue.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what I want to see, is how much of your expenses are offset by revenue. So-
Any of the
So-
expenses from the general fund are, for the programs, are, for revenue is also in the general fund. So like the Parks and Rec summer camp, all the expenses come out of the special revenue and all the revenue.
So
Yeah,
there's both.
with the
both
exception
reported.
of the first aid training, and some of the sports supplies, that comes out of general.
Okay.
But we're battling the, wage increase, so we've raised the camp fees to account for that, because that's offset.
Kind of goes back to my
I
original.
think it's about 90 to 100,000 we pay the staff each year, out of special revenue.
So we have expenses and revenue showing up in the special revenue.
Yeah,
And expense funds, which are not included.
Yes,
Right, okay. So then is it safe to say that the operating budget expenditures that we're seeing in ClearGov are for running Parks and Rec
yeah,
and not offset by other revenue, for the most part?
correct, yeah. Because most of the program instructors are paid out of special revenue, and that's
Got
where the program fees go.
Okay,
And same with summer camp, all the field trip fees, camp, revenue all goes in there, and then goes pays the staff and
Okay.
field trips, food and all that.
all right, so I don't have any other questions, and we did cover the SIP on Thursday, so I think we're good.
Almost,
Guys?
That's it.
Okay,
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
All right.
Come on up.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks for switching your day around.
No problem.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Yeah, had nothing on the calendar, so.
Just watch yourself. You're welcome. And Gail, same to you. Thanks for switching up your day.
Sure, let's do it.
So Gail, is there anything that you'd like to share with us, or should we just ask away with questions?
Well, I have a couple of talking points
Okay.
that I'll go through
Let's
and
hear. it.
then answer.
Okay.
So it looks like the union salaries were not adjusted yet for the new contract. So I know those numbers will change. And I'm pleased to see that the mayor's proposed budget includes the increases for the telephone, operating, line, and books. A top priority for the library commission is also to restore 16 hours of library assistant help. The hours are needed to provide adequate coverage at the desk and to cover vacations and sick time for staff who earn benefits. With just 2 people often covering a building, when one of them is out, we need to bring someone else in to cover. The full-time equivalent of staff in this account, including Sundays and the restored hours, is 2.2. The current total number of all staff for staff hours covering the desk is 231, an FTE of 5.7. The minimum wage increase also impacts the library assistant wages. And I put together a spreadsheet that is in use, but I have copies if anyone would like to see it. I've got a few copies here. Okay. The spreadsheet shows that there were 3 different years when these employees did not see an increase to their wages. That was fiscal year 2017 to 19 and fiscal year 20 to 21. The minimum wage, however, increased 15% from 2017 to fiscal year 2022, and it will go up another 15% in 2023 fiscal year. The library assistant wages during that time have only increased 7%. The Library Commission proposal for library assistants is for a 15% increase to bring them in line with the $15 minimum wage. You've heard me say this repeatedly every year, but these employees are critical to the efficient operation of the library, and the position requires a skill set that deserves more than the minimum wage. And I'm asking that you consider increasing the mayor's proposal to accommodate the minimum wage increase and provide additional library hours. And I'll answer any questions.
So to be clear, Gail, are you saying that the town is not meeting the minimum wage requirements, or are you saying you want to increase the non-minimum wage earners by, it's the latter?
Correct.
So we are in compliance with minimum wage, but
Yes, just
because
barely.
people who got minimum wage increases are now caught up with or close to, or at least the people who did not get to minimum wage, who are above minimum wage, did not get comparable, commensurate, thank you, percent increases.
So what I'm referring to on the minimum wage is the part-time non-union employees.
Right.
So
Right.
they're just barely at, like, we brought them up to the $13 for
Right.
this year. And then next fiscal year, it actually goes up twice during the fiscal year, once in July or August, and once again in June of 2023.
Okay.
So before the end of the year.
So I'm going to ask that you send this proposal to us electronically, and I'll do the same
Absolutely.
thing that I did last year.
Sure.
I'll look at that.
Yep.
We'll talk about what changes might be made or what a reasonable approach might be.
Okay, okay,
So you send that, we'll take a look at it,
sure.
and thank you.
I think the only other question I have is, seems to be an increase with every department, is telephone and fax service. So I guess I'm not surprised by that, but it is a pretty sizable increase for the library.
Mhm.
Is that because we're adding lines?
No, same lines.
Same lines. Seems like a big increase, 73%. We haven't seen that big of an increase for other departments. For telephone and fax service.
Other things in that line item.
No, it's strictly, it's the both buildings, a phone line and a fax line. We have a double line at Bill,
Yeah.
two phone lines.
But nothing's changed in terms of the number of lines.
No,
Yeah,
No.
so
and I have seen an increase quite a bit in the monthly bills even this year.
yeah. No, we've seen increases in other departments, just not like this.
Tim, did you say 73%?
That's,
Are you looking at the?
I'm sorry, you're right. That's the year-to-date spend, 23%. That's
Mhm.
still bigger than what we've been seeing. 73% is
Oh,
expended,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Sorry.
I just,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Sorry to shock everybody.
the number is as of, it should have been as of last Monday, because they needed another upload, and I just looked and I didn't cut it off at December 31st. So I'm gonna have that changed.
That's the actuals you're talking about.
Yeah, the actuals.
Yeah, I'm talking about the overall budget for telephone and fax service. It's, last year, the FY 22 revised budget was 26, and that was the original budget too, so just went up. Quite a bit. Abstract amount of $400, was about $600, but
Was 23,
23%.
23%.
I don't think we've seen that kind of increase before, then, so I just didn't know if anything was different with the library. So,
Do you have fax machines? in
We
libraries?
do, we have one at each library, and we do fax service for the public.
Okay.
And they pay obviously for the fax,
Okay,
but that goes into our special fund budget, the revenue from that.
okay. Do you have, I forget the name of the e-fax service that we're using?
We did not get into that because we do the faxing for the public.
Okay,
We do have copiers that will scan and email,
yeah,
and people can do that, but a lot of times they really want the fax.
they have to fax.
Yeah, yeah.
Just, so this is really a question for Regina, whether the current e-fax service would let you scan a document using the e-fax service and send it to a fax machine. Some do.
Okay.
So
Is that dependent on the copier, or is that?
if the copier scans, then some e-fax services, I could be wrong, but I'm almost positive, you can scan into the copier and then use the e-fax service to send that to another fax machine.
Okay, okay.
so I just pulled up telephone and fax service. I just sorted by telephone and fax service. And fire marshal was 5.7%, and MIS was 10.6%. So,
We have two buildings though, so. it's-
oh yeah, no, but
Yeah.
percentage wise, it should be
Yeah,
the same.
yeah,
And so we're all over the place here.
yeah.
That seems odd to me. Yeah, this is, to be clear, this is not a you issue. This is
Okay,
a
the
general
whole thing,
issue.
yeah,
It's like, okay,
yeah.
why are we all over the place with this telephone and fax service?
Okay. And operating expenses are up 4%, 4.16. Is there a contributor for that?
Well, for one thing, all of the COVID supplies that we had to purchase, the cleaning, the keyboard covers, all of that that we did during COVID, costs have gone up. Particularly right now with supply chain issues, we're finding costs are higher.
Did we have a separate line item for COVID operating expenses?
I did not use the line item in the budget for COVID, but I've tracked our COVID costs. I believe I've sent them to Marcia once or twice. What we had spent on COVID related issues.
Okay. And so I don't have any other questions for expenditures, counselors.
No, just like to say thank you. The library is an asset that I think a lot of people undervalue today in some
Thank you.
ways. And, I know I've dragged my kids to the library because not everything can be found on Google, much to their chagrin.
We say that all the time. Yes,
But,
thank you.
Reading too, we make use of the library, and it's a wonderful asset to have in town. So thank you very much.
Okay,
Especially that seed library.
that's been very popular. Yes, yeah.
I would also point out that Gail is retiring this year,
Uh-oh.
and she and Don Greasy have probably tied the record for the longest service. in
Really?
town.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my last budget.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Aw.
Yep.
This is mine too. It's not a sad thing.
Yeah.
Marcia has lost no sleep.
I have, but not because of this.
I will miss it. I know. I really love, I have always loved what I do. Love the
Oh, that shows.
community and, and it's really sad, but time.
Thank you, Gail.
Yeah, before we go, it's not pertinent to this year, but I see there's a capital
Yes.
expense out in
yes.
24. What is that
Yes.
for?
We have a need for space at the library.
Okay.
and We'd like to see an addition.
Probably
We actually have, well, over $1 million that we can put towards the building project. So we'd like to see that start up again.
I see that now. in the notes. Could have
Yeah.
answered my own question. Thank you though for
Yep.
entertaining.
Yeah.
Good to get it out in public. So, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you,
Okay,
Gail.
thank you.
Nice to see you.
Thanks, Gail. Thanks for coming in.
So, all right.
So we're even, that we're here.
Oh, are
I
they
was
here?
gonna say,
Yeah.
Steve said he was gonna be here at 2, and I almost texted him back and said,
They were standing
"Oh,
outside.
you might wanna wait."
They would stand outside.
I actually have a question.
Yep.
Can I call your name or-
Do you know where we find?
I am not here at all.
WPCA budget?
but,
and
um, Yeah, let me give you my.
You should see it.
number.
Sure. Okay.
Uh,
I don't know the numbers are completely up to date with what Ed and the WPCA had changed. I don't think they are, but the budget should, I just don't, I don't know if Marcia has
Sorry.
given you
Yeah.
access. Hey, hey,
Should I see?
Sorry. Yeah. no.
yes. If you go under your home,
you're welcome.
hold on, I have to sign in.
What are you looking for?
WPCA.
WPCA budget.
Oh,
I have copies of it.
did you?
Well, I want to make sure.
I don't have it on
It's-
there.
it's-
If everyone's a hard copy.
I was thinking of bringing one too, but I thought it's probably not right.
Have you seen the,
These are right, I
No,
think. Ian.
all right.
These are new.
ClearGov is not up to date, but whatever I gave out in this
Do
is
they
correct.
have that? You guys have? I mean, I just have this.
I'll take anything.
Yeah.
you got.
Yeah,
So,
bunch of-
it's great.
That's not. So apologies to the folks online. We're
Here's another one.
handing out paper.
How was the Reuben? How was the Reuben?
Good.
Okay, so we haven't had any time for analysis, so give us a couple minutes just to look. The big ones are always cost of water. And it's always the hardest thing to estimate. And this is sewer budget, so.
This is
Are
revenue
you
and
on?
expenses, yeah.
Your computer?
Yeah.
If you go onto the server and go into my folder,
So
Yeah.
just as background, sewer rates are based
This is the
on.
one that we
water.
read.
and then open up
Ian and I
this
read
fiscal
through
year.
this,
So
and then we
This is
read
what we
it.
approved.
If you're buying water from the town. and
So
you have
FY23,
sewer
yeah.
service,
Yeah.
Then your
It's
sewer rate
basically all that's
is a
in there right
function
now.
of the water you use.
No, yeah,
Like,
yeah, like public water.
not everyone has sewer.
No. Know that. Sure, it's having a septic.
Yeah,
Not happy about it.
I like my well and
Oh, I paid the monthly bill, say goodbye. Not have to worry about pumping.
well, our industry was on the radio last Friday.
Yeah,
on
NPR.
NPR. That was a
Yep.
nice little thing about
Really?
the sewer people. Yeah, that was kind of nice to.
Test for
to listen
COVID.
to. Yeah.
So for the folks online, this is Steve Banks, who is the supervisor of the wastewater treatment plant, and Chairman Ed Lynch for the WPCA.
Where it, I'm sorry, you probably answered this. Where, this isn't in ClearGov?
Apparently not.
It is in ClearGov, but it's not up to the most recent numbers because
But where's it under in ClearGov?
it depends if you have access.
they should have access.
So I'm at home.
Is it under Public Works? Is it under?
If you, so if you're in,
Should be its own thing.
Oh,
if you go to operating budget,
yep.
there should be 3 funds listed. Town operating, water budget, and sewer budget.
Oh,
No.
no, we don't see that.
we don't do that.
Wow.
We see town, capital, and that's it.
Okay, let me see if I can get you. Yeah,
That's
I
why.
could add you real
Okay.
fast.
Yeah, so while you're doing that, Marcia, let's, Steve, if you want to just walk us through the budget.
Yeah,
I think
so
that'd be
we had a
nice.
few increases, not that much. The electrician line item, third one on the list there, that went up a little bit. We've been using them a little bit more for some of our repairs. And then electricity, I think we bumped that up a little bit, Ian, right? As well as the heating and propane.
Yep.
Went up a little bit.
Just saw
Which
diesel.
is
at
understandable,
5.40 a
yeah.
gallon.
And then,
I guess I would ask, and I've asked Public Works and the other service departments this question, is that enough?
I think so.
Yeah,
We don't
what's
use a
been
lot
going
like
on.
they do.
Okay.
We only have a couple vehicles for the gasoline, and the diesel is only used when we need it for backup generator.
Okay.
And knock on wood, we haven't had to use it really that much. So that's kind of as an on-need basis where we have a 500-gallon holding tank, and if we need to, we had a little bit of a scare there the last, winter there with a few things, but nothing that we were running it for, a week or so straight. So we don't use a lot of it.
Steve, have you sorted out, are you comfortable with whether your solar panels are saving power?
I'm never comfortable with it. I'm
I
never
think
happy
this
with
year
it.
we're gonna be.
Well,
They're gonna increase electricity significantly
Yeah.
this year. I think we're gonna see a significant savings.
okay, well, I want to see it.
Did we ever see what we thought we were gonna see? My sense
No.
is no.
Not yet. They keep telling me we're banking it. We're banking it. We're banking it. But I want to know when we get to go and can take a withdrawal out of the bank. But it's kind of, is it getting better, Ian? Is it we saving a little bit more each year? or-
I was just about to hop in
Okay,
and
thank you.
give you actual numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen my own house solar increasing
Yeah,
in
yeah.
savings this month was significant, actually.
But the
So
treatment plant is the largest user of electricity.
in the town, yeah.
On the
Yeah,
town.
Is
you're
it?
talking,
Yeah, I would say.
you're
yeah.
talking 250 kilowatts. Yes, there's quite a few motors that are over 10 horsepower. And they're running all the time. The blowers are what, 60 horsepower?
No, 40.
40, all right. So there's significant electrical consumption.
I think Ian and I have been going over this for a while, and I think we're saving a little bit more than we were.
Yeah, electricity in 18 and 19 were trending around 50,000 a year, and last year we were at 47,000. Fiscal 20 was very low at 40,000, but if I remember correctly, we had a very, very mild winter that year.
We did.
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Yeah, we actually do have some electrical heat that we use. Yep.
So, and then we just turned everything, all the heaters that we're not, in the buildings and the pump stations and things like that, we turned those all off, so. That should come down even more now. But there was a little bit increase there. Couple other ones.
$4.16.
With an asterisk.
Yeah, I see that.
Yes.
I'm assuming that's a correction of some sort.
The asterisks just indicate
Well,
that
yeah,
it-
the agreement's being finalized,
the
but-
numbers aren't official because of continual agreements and stuff like that.
I know. It's
It looks like
$4.
the budget for that line,
Yeah.
Steve, is that your salary?
That's my salary.
It was budgeted high this year for some reason, and so that was correct. It's correct going forward next year.
That's what I meant, is it seems like there was just an error. And we're
Yeah, it was
correcting
overly,
Yeah.
it was budgeted a little too high this year.
So every one of these line items is contractual.
There's one that is an unknown, as you know. We're asking Groton Utilities, both the service side and the operations side, for a new contract.
Yeah.
It's due, and even though we projected what we think will be the increase, we have no idea what they're going to ask for.
Where's
when we
this?
do it?
Okay.
So that there should be a
Oh,
GU
Groton
service here,
Utilities.
Groton
Yeah.
service. So
GU customer
so
service.
we've been trying to minimize the impact to the sewer budget with that number. We've been putting more of the emphasis on the water budget, which can seem to afford it. But that's a number that we're,
Plus they have more customers.
yes, that's right.
When do they tell you?
Well, this month, we will be reviewing a draft of the request for quote and hopefully have it approved at our meeting in March. And then hopefully we'll go out for bids. And so we will know before the 1st of July. We have to know by the 1st of July what that impact is going to be on the budget.
So we contract with Groton Utilities for two things, plus the purchase of water. They run our water system and they do our billing for sewer and water, and we buy water. The bids that are going out are for customer service billing and for running the water system.
Right. And they do a good job.
Yeah.
They do an excellent job.
Yes, they do.
I never hear anything from service. I mean, they take care of the business. So on the operational side, they do quite a bit for us, both engineering and repairs. And we've had a lot of repairs in Highlands in the last year. We're only going to get more as that system ages.
So the town council has approval authority over the water budget, but not the sewer. So this
Right.
is information.
Okay.
That's right. So there's a few, slight increases, but generally. trying to
Yeah, the
keep-
overall increase, I think, is 3%. Which I think in this world of inflation, what is it, 7-8%? Shouldn't really ruffle anybody's feathers in this town, I would hope.
So you're talking about the budget or the rate increase or both?
I'm talking about the budget.
Yeah. Okay, councilors, questions? Okay. I can see.
Okay, and then while we're here, the pump station, is everybody all set? You guys all set with the pump station? We do have to talk to the building committee at some point.
Yes, so the town council approved the pump station expenditure, the skid mounted pump station for the treatment plant. And yeah, now it goes to the public municipal, the PMBC. And they will say, okay, we'll manage this, or no, we'd like WPCA to manage this.
Okay, which they're gonna tell us to manage it, which is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. And then we'll meet with them as we go along. We're gonna ask for local contracts to do the work. We put it out to bid. We didn't receive any answers to the bid.
Yeah.
So we think we can do it efficiently and reasonably with local vendors doing it, staying under the.
So
bidding
you'll serve
process.
as a general contractor.
Right.
Well, we're using ARPA funds for that already.
Not for the installation.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah, it was
Oh, yeah, we are,
175,
yeah,
it was like
yeah.
99,000 and change
Yeah.
for the skid mounted unit and then installation. costs.
Right.
Yep.
So
Okay.
good.
So, good.
So we don't need to do anything else for you guys.
Let's look at the capital, make sure that's
It's
right.
a skid mounted sewer
You just
pump.
have to skid mount.
That's
Yeah.
why I pulled it up. Yeah.
Oh, it is, okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, the risk of us doing it ourselves is minimal because it is skid mounted. In other words, the engineering will be, the vendor will make sure that all the
Right.
engineering is correct.
Yeah, we bumped this up. That's
Yeah.
what our vote was for.
Yep.
Is to bump
To
it
get
up
it done.
because we had the ARPA
Right.
funds to use. So,
Yes.
You have a copy of the water? budget?
No, I do not.
Oh, no.
I'm pulling that up right now.
You should be able to see that as
Oh,
well.
yeah.
Both of
There
them.
were adjustments made at the last WPCA meeting a couple weeks ago, so I just want to, I don't know if I do believe the numbers that are in ClearGov right now are not 100% accurate.
Marcia, it should be on the homepage.
Where there should be something that says see all budgets or go to all budgets.
So go to operating budget.
Oh, it's in the operating
Got
budget.
it.
Yeah.
Here's the WPC in the second line.
I always get nervous when my choice is to edit.
Edit?
It's okay, we have an audit trail.
Oh, that's
Yeah, I know you
good.
do.
We'll know what you did.
It's been turned
I
on,
think I'll
right?
be a reviewer, not a primary. So you're already in the budget. How'd you get that?
I clicked on operational budget.
You don't need me.
No, you're good, man.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, let me know. how that-
Thanks,
Nice
Steve.
to meet you.
Appreciate what you
I
do.
didn't look up what's on there.
Water,
Yeah.
salary, wages. and
Other than
benefits.
allergies, yeah. life's
That's
good.
all I got. I don't have it.
We do or don't have the budget?
I got the operational budget, but
Oh. Yeah, click on water budget right there.
Yes.
Go back.
That is not accurate. The numbers still need to be updated.
oh,
And
edit.
to the right, edit.
Yeah. That's why I didn't bring it. It went to something.
Well,
All
the
right,
clear,
there
the
we go.
ClearGov numbers. The spreadsheet from the agenda is up to date from the spreadsheet.
Correct. That's the one we approve, or not approve, but recommend for approval.
So the water department of the town does have authority to approve, to recommend to the voters.
Let me just see what I can.
Well, while you're doing that, so the summary is that this is the last of 3 years. bless you. This is the last of 3 years in which Groton Utilities has raised the rate 3% per year to pay for that big plant upgrade. And that impact is around, I recall, $15,000 in raw water cost. And then we're looking at our CNR. One of the things we're gonna be faced with is we're gonna have to repaint the tank. And that's gonna be $1 million. And we don't have $1 million saved up in CNR. So we're gonna increase a little bit the CNR. So the overall, again, increase for water is 3% to the rate there. I'm hoping, the CNR is the thing that's gonna be a challenge, Bill, so. But we're trying to minimize the impact to the ratepayers.
You said you're expecting an increase in the water use?
Yeah, no, and the water charge, we're expecting a 3%. Groton Utilities, this is the last year. And that's
23 is the last year.
So
I'm not seeing a change.
22, 23, right.
What you see in ClearGov is not up to date. I'm getting copies of those.
Okay, all right.
They just made.
Yeah, because 20.
What you're saying is, yeah, right, yeah.
Ed, is the Clean Water Fund a possible source of cheap borrowed money to do the tank painting or not?
I don't know. That's a maintenance thing and not a capital project thing. So I'd have to find out. I'm not sure.
I think you actually have to be running water with it, with whatever load you get from them.
Oh, okay.
Has to be for
We
distribution.
have to
to
put some
collection.
pipe in the ground too at the same time, stick a length of pipe in the ground too and paint it.
We could do that. I mean, we're still waiting for that company to rip out the pipe in the ground we have in the Gallup Hill tank. I have no idea what's going on with that. That's a mystery to
Stanford
me.
wrecking.
Yeah, they,
That's it done?
No,
they haven't even started it yet.
I don't even, have they
They
even mobilized?
they took down Crystal Avenue Apartments. I think they just did that instead.
Yeah, I know they did.
Well, that's also been waiting years to happen. too.
Yeah.
The problem is we're coming into spring and it's just gonna make it a massive
It's a mud
mess.
pit.
There's gonna be a mud
What
pit.
is this?
It's an old abandoned water tank, or however you describe it.
We're trying to minimize the liability to the town. That's a big liability. Some kid's gonna climb that tank and break their head and
Okay.
we're gonna lose it.
So on Gallup Hill Road is this old tank that served the Highlands.
Okay,
Now,
all right.
now the tank in the center of town serves the Highlands.
We also have a
So-
bunker that I'm afraid somebody's
Yeah.
gonna break into. And it's got lead in it, it's got asbestos in it. That's, nice, but
All the healthy stuff.
yeah, all the healthy stuff. So we're trying to get that cleaned up for the town, but it's been a bit of a challenge. I don't know why.
So anyway, the contractor was waiting for frozen ground to start taking the tank down.
Right.
Ground froze and starting to thaw now.
Okay.
Yeah, I
We
don't
didn't know he was waiting for frozen ground this coming fall. Not.
Yeah, well, maybe
current-
that's
yeah.
it. I don't know. I mean, it's been a very cold winter. This would have been the winter to do it. I don't know what next winter's gonna be like. So yeah.
So the changes are highlighted on the right column. So there's the contribution to CNR that Ed was just talking about. The operating agreement is for the water operations contract.
What is Route 12 water purchase used?
We have 2 meters. So we actually have a main meter on Route 12.
Yeah.
And a separate meter on 117. So we get billed from both.
By
meters.
Groton.
By Groton,
By GU.
right. They're tied into the Groton system.
Huh.
Eventually we'll be tied into the Norwich system. That'll be an interesting future competition, maybe.
So that's an emergency connection.
Yeah, that's rated by the DPH as emergency, but we could petition purchase water from them if we
So,
wanted
and
to.
that could potentially put us in a bidding situation.
Yes.
Competition is always good.
Yeah.
Been waiting for that for a long time.
Yeah, it's because of supply chain. They can't get insulation for the pipe to go underneath the bridge. So
So just from my edification, since I'm the new guy, right? Is the Groton Utilities operating, the 3 lines that have to do with Groton Utilities operating. You have emergency, what
Right.
is that for?
That's when you have a pipe burst or something of that nature.
And
This
you
is-
just call them, and that's there.
They
Okay.
take care of it.
And
Yes.
then their annual agreement is just what we pay them.
Right,
just
they
to-
have to do they're required by the DPH and the state to do a lot of sampling
Right.
and monitoring of leaks. There's a whole bunch. And they also do hydrant repair. All those hydrants need to be
Right.
repaired, so.
And that is literally that, these 3 lines, including the customer service line, which I'm surprised is separate. I would imagine they would have just rolled that in as one charge, but that's just the cost of doing business with them.
Yeah, that's the cost for doing
Before we
invoicing,
buy product one.
invoicing and taking care of liens. I mean, I just signed a lien today. I mean, they actually take care of that side of the business.
Right.
The reason it's separate is because we in the old days had billed it separately, and now we're trying to this year do it combined. So hopefully
Okay.
next year you only
Right.
see one line.
So originally, we
Yeah.
just had to run the water system. We did
Right.
our own billing.
Correct.
And the contract.
Okay.
You will never see it as one line.
Oh, you won't?
No,
I don't
You
think
don't like
because,
that?
Yeah.
well, because the customer service is water and sewer.
Oh,
and
that's
the
right. Yeah.
Operation is just water.
You're
So
right.
it will be
You're
a
right.
separate, it might be
Yeah.
one complete contract together, but it will always be kind of a
Right.
separate entity because it involves sewer.
How, now, I got
Wait a
a
minute.
question. How are you gonna do that, Ian? If we only get one
Well, it-
number, how are we gonna divide that up?
It'll be in the contract broken out.
All right, you'll
So-
ask for it.
We pay, so that interesting point you just made. So Groton Utilities customer service on the water side costs us $94,000 round numbers. And on the sewer side, it's 18.
It's about 15% to 85% because sewer is such a small amount of customers compared to the water.
Really?
Almost,
Okay.
yeah, the water goes throughout the entire
Only
town.
one location in town. that
Yeah,
has
sewer is only one little
Interesting.
neighborhood, the Highlands.
Yeah.
Now, that may change when we go to Ledyard Center, but we'll deal with it in the
Not
future.
not in a huge way, though. I mean, you've got all of Gales Ferry without sewer.
It's true.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have about 1,600 customers now on water and about, it's
How many?
every year it increases.
1,600.
And we've got maybe 440 on sewer. I mean, that's kind of
Okay, 4 to 1.
4 to 1. Yeah, the math works out.
We changed the ratio, what was it, 2 years ago, I think, because the sewer number is just, that customer number
Never
doesn't
changes.
change. And every year the water customer goes up. So, every so many years, WPCA reassesses that ratio.
Yeah, we were trying to, I mean, unfortunately, the sewer has a fixed amount of income coming in, but every year the cost increases, whereas water has been keeping up.
So general obligation bond principal. dropped. Oh, it's principal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which makes sense, right?
No, I'm in the wrong line. Sorry. It looks
No, the
like
principal
it,
increased.
Yeah. But the
Should be
interest
amortization.
increase decreased.
Interest decreases over,
Interest.
Mhm.
yep,
Yep, okay.
Correct.
It's a good thing.
Yeah.
Loan payment to sewer department. That's not an increase or decrease.
it's a year-to-year thing that stays the same a long time ago. Oh God, was it 15, 20 years ago? The water
Yes.
department was borrowing money from the sewer department to fund the water department, which is technically not allowed. So it's been a slow repayment over the course of longer than I've been here.
This is because of things like this is when the town council took over.
Yeah, they borrowed over $330,000 of capital money that was saved for sewer, which sewer needed.
Wow.
And now we're paying it back. I wish I could pay it back faster, but.
It's almost
you know,
done.
so- Oh, we're gonna have a party.
When will it be done?
Oh, it's almost done. What does that mean?
Yeah, 2029.
The ground freezes.
Yeah, that's actually good news. I'd like to-
So the ancient
Uh,
history is that for years, the WPCA tried to absorb water rate increases. And you can't run a business that's self-sustaining that way, as we all know, so.
It looks
money
like
was
next
actually
year
coming
is the
out of
last
sewer.
year.
That's
There you
fantastic.
go.
Party time.
Wow.
Good news.
So as Kevin and the mayor mentioned, the WPCA, the town council for a very short time was the WPCA. We did a contract with Groton Utilities to run the water system. And we made, with a new WPCA, we made a number of financial changes, just good practices that allowed the organization to set aside money. And the WPCA technically cannot make money, it also can't lose money, and it was losing money. So a lot of changes that were very effective, and here we are.
That's an emergency ordinance and got it done.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The one thing we're still trying to catch up on, as the chairman mentioned, is that painting that water tank was a known expense, and we should have been setting money aside for years, 15 or more years now, and instead we weren't. So you are now and have been, but
Yeah, ever since I've been a member, we've increased that significantly. If it's not enough, we may have to go increase it some more. But typical of an operation like this, you should be saving between 15 to 20% of your operating budget. We're not. We're down in the 10 to 12%. So, but we don't, in fairness to the ratepayers, we're trying to. It's a balancing act. We don't want to kill people in their water bills. So it's
pipes and tanks deteriorate.
They
You don't
do.
Set money aside, then all of a sudden you're putting new pipe in the ground.
an example is Fox Run. We had a meter and we were giving away water. The meter was broken, but the meter was expensive. It cost 25 grand to replace that meter.
Big meter.
So we said, we had to bite the bullet and say, well, I hate giving away water, because what happens in a large meter like that, when people just at 2 o'clock in the morning flush the toilet at Fox Run, that meter's not picking it up, the old meter. The new meter is. So we were just giving away, water and money. So we had to, but you had to bite the bullet and say, well, meter's not cheap. So.
But we're still paying for the water from Groton Utilities.
Well, we're paying for that water. The ratepayers are. They're paying for every cubic foot of that water, so. But I think we've identified, there's a couple other places we've got to dismantle. Sablewood is one in the future. That's a teenage haven.
It's an attractive nuisance back there.
Yeah, I love telling the story. We opened up the door and I looked in there, I saw something in the dark crawling around in there. I said, I'm not going in there. It was about this big. Might have been a raccoon, I don't know. It was like, okay, close the door. Whatever's in there is happy.
We have other pump stations that are.
Yeah,
defunct
this
and
Village
abandoned.
Drive, we have to
And-
clean up.
And Gallop Hill,
Yeah.
concrete building, they still want to sell.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's just me missing something here, but on what Ian printed out for us. I'm assuming the revised budget column is actually FY22, right?
Yeah, that's just
So,
an error. I
when I
saw when
follow-
you were circling there, I'm like, oh, he's gonna call me on that.
Well, the real question is when you go down that column,
I saw
right,
mark it up, I'm like, I'm looking at, oh, no.
what's the transfers in? And then, and then the total revenue is almost 2 million?
So the transfer in the general fund covers the debt. So the transfer in amount will match the general obligation bond principal, general obligation bond interest, CWF loan principal, and CWF loan interest. So the general fund pays for that. So in the debt, in the general fund, there's a line for a transfer out
Right.
to WPCA, and then
Oh.
that transfer in is that money. Basically, the general fund subsidizes the WPCA debt.
All right, but then for the total water fund though, it's, so why don't we have that large of a number budgeted?
The total revenue would be 1.5 million.
No, like, so FY 12, FY 22 original appropriation is 395.
Mhm.
This is 930, and then you're saying the revised for FY 22 is 933.
Yeah.
And then we're going back down to 392 for FY 23.
I think is that to date, year to date? I'm not sure.
Well, and then the year-to-date column is actually
Right.
calendar
Yeah,
year.
that's a
It's
good
not
question.
fiscal year.
Right. Yeah, that's.
It took me a
No,
minute to
that-
get that.
That 9 number
Yeah,
is
who
not
got that up?
correct.
That 9 number is not correct.
It's probably 39. I don't know where that.
393. So it's a transposition of numbers.
Possibly.
392 over on the road.
Well, no, we're looking at 933. right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But over here, way over the right is 392.
Well, that's the proposed budget.
Yeah.
So FY 22 revised budget, I'm thinking should have been 3 something, not 933.
Correct.
Yeah. So the math is off, is what I'm saying on the spreadsheet. I couldn't reconcile the
Yeah,
numbers.
It should be the 395,500.72.
Well, that's the original appropriation. That's
Yeah,
still
that-
the revised.
Yes.
Okay.
So then the total proposed budget is going down.
Yes. Transfer zone.
Which makes sense because
Oh,
over time the
because
debt
the
goes
debt
down.
goes
Correct.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
that makes sense to me.
Okay.
So then all these numbers underneath it for revenue total, expense total.
Yeah, for that
Well,
column.
expense total stays the same, but for revenue total. It should change.
Yep.
Okay, all right. So it looks like, as you were stating, I think previously, a slight increase for ratepayers,
3%,
3%.
which we have to go to a public hearing for.
Right.
And the last time we did that, nobody showed up. And I thought there's gonna be a lot of interest in this one, but we'll try.
You
Hey, no,
said it, if you've done what you're supposed to do.
Yep. But that won't happen until after, is that before or after the town council? I keep forgetting what's
So
the.
your rate increases are not tied to the budget approval by the voters.
No,
Um, So the budget gets approved. Whenever you're going to implement your rate increase, you run a public hearing before then. It's not tied to the budget.
okay, so
But
we will,
the budget includes an assumed 3% rate increase.
I got, okay.
Yeah.
So at the end of this month, we will schedule a public hearing.
Correct.
For April. Timeframe,
Um,
or whatever the maximum or minimum time we have to do.
You don't have to do that before the budget is approved. You just have to announce that this budget includes
Right,
an assumed 3% rate
because
increase.
the budget goes to referendum anyway.
Right, so, right, because people vote on that separately.
Yeah,
So your public hearing should be tied more to when you plan to implement the rate increase.
which is before the 1st July.
So you're in the same time frame.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
if it's not April, May, it has to be done before 1st July.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
45 minutes on schedule.
What happened?
I talked too much
consider
again.
Better than Thursday, right?
This coming, or are you already predicting this coming?
Thursday.
Okay, so for the folks online, we have finished our agenda. Thank you for attending. Oh, we got a chat here. Hang on.
Oh, yeah, I covered that.
Oh, you got that. Okay.
Yeah, it was early.
Okay. So we can adjourn at 2:59.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Whoa.